Samantha Ponder, a former ESPN host, has finally opened up about her contentious dismissal from the company last year, acknowledging that her objections against transgender athletes in women's sports undoubtedly contributed to the incident. In August 2024, Ponder, 39, was unexpectedly let go by the network barely 2 years into her 3-year, $3 million deal. At the time, the departure was attributed to cost-cutting measures. But only a few weeks after criticizing boxer Imane Khalif, who earned a gold medal in women's boxing at the 2024 Olympics in Paris despite being a biological male, the Sunday NFL Countdown host was fired. "Enough is what all of us should be saying," Khalif commented on X after sharing statements from one of her opponents about why she stopped halfway through their fight. "I'm proud of this lady." When Ponder spoke on fellow former ESPN star Sage Steele's podcast last week, she said she was immediately concerned about possible backlash from network executives. She said to Steele, "I knew when I sent that it wasn't going over well. But that seems like abuse to me. You see a man physically hitting a woman in a boxing ring. And in the spirit of inclusivity, we're only expected to, yay, clap gesture?" Ponder, who worked for ESPN for 14 years before being fired, had previously expressed her opinions on trans athletes in women's sports on a number of occasions. It is well worth your time to listen to Paula Y. Scanlon share her own story as someone who actually lived this while a female athlete at UPenn, she wrote in a June 2023 retweet of a video post featuring former UPenn swimmer Paula Scanlon recalling her time as a teammate of trans athlete Leah Thomas, regardless of your stance on matter. Allowing trans athletes to participate in women's sports takes away so many options for biological women and girls in sports, the then ESPN presenter said on X 2 months prior. Ponder thinks it is no accident that her termination occurred soon after her most recent trans protest about Khalif, even though she also attributes it to her irregular work schedule. She told Steele, "I don't really think that was the only reason I lost my job, but the timing of it most likely was. I was informed in private after the fact that while the majority of the company's top executives agreed with me on the matter, there is a vocal activist group at ESPN owners Disney that was not pleased with me. I can still tell you, Sage, that this is one of the best things that has ever happened to me, even after telling you all of that." ESPN has been contacted by DailyMail.com for comment. Steele also ended her 16-year tenure at ESPN a year before Ponder left in order to have greater freedom to voice her thoughts. In April 2022, she filed a lawsuit against the network, alleging that the suspension for remarks she made regarding former President Barack Obama and the COVID-19 vaccine was a violation of her First Amendment rights and Connecticut's free speech statutes. Then, in August 2023, the two parties parted ways. According to Ponder, an ESPN executive sent her an email stating that the corporation was uncomfortable with her talking about trans athletes in women's sports and that they weren't going to let me misgender people. She later received a thorough email the following week explaining that she had favorited a tweet from conservative voice Megyn Kelly that said guys don't require gynecologists, despite a request for details being denied right away. Ponder remarked, "In some ways, I found it humorous how ridiculous it is. I believe that any woman who has visited a gynecologist can relate to that." The email purportedly included further instances of behavior that ESPN considered offensive, warning her, "We're not doing this." Ponder now sees her leaving as a blessing in disguise, over a year after it happened. "I wasn't going to jump off that hamster wheel by myself. I had to be kicked off," she said. "Even though the logic behind it is truly insane, I don't feel resentful or even depressed. After 20 years in the industry, I had a fantastic career. There are still some truly amazing people there, as well as some excellent folks I met. I never imagined that this would be the solution, but I should have spoken up sooner rather than later and shown far more courage when I realized what was right."